You are listening to the Average Pundits podcast on your favorite streaming platform.
Hiya guys, and welcome back to the Average Pundits podcast, your home of all things Premier League. And today we are coming at you with a Liverpool Football Club special. It was only right that we went out and found another Liverpool fan to come on. I'm outnumbered this week. I'm the resident United fan. I've got two Liverpool boys on this week. But without further ado, please welcome Mr. MCCABE, who's come with us today from the Near Post podcast. How you doing, Dermot?
I'm all good. Can't complain. Look, I'd love if we were talking about Liverpool-Chelsea Champions League semi-final tonight, but fortunately we're not there. We've got nothing to play for really for the rest of the season in my eyes, but delighted to be on here. Thanks again for having me on. Yeah,
no worries at all, mate. Yeah, it would be good if I guess as a fan to see in that Champions League final. But we've got plenty to talk about this based on how things have gone for Liverpool. It may not have gone as previously expected for fans of the club. So we'll dive into a bit of that in a minute. But as always, I am joined by my co-host Reese. How you doing, Reese?
Yeah, good. And I think maybe the first time in history we've had a fellow Irishman on the podcast. So it's good to hear the different accent rather than the just plain boring English one.
Happy to oblige, lads. Happy to oblige.
So we'll get him talking a bit about Liverpool at the moment this season. So they currently sit in sixth, 54 points. We'll start with you, Dermot. As a fan, it must have been very difficult this season. At some points, it's seeming like things are going well, and then all of a sudden, the injuries come in, the results aren't coming in as first expected. What do you think is the reasoning behind some of the downfall this season?
Like the injuries is a part. Injuries, fatigue. I think they're the main two, and I think actually the lack of fans actually will be up there as well. We're the sort of club that thrives on fans. You know what I mean? Even at the Champions League games with that Madrid game, if we had fans going into that with that deficit, I would have been quite confident that we could have done something there. I think them fans are worth a goal for some of them Champions League nights, but not having them has really hindered us. Teams aren't scared going to Anfield anymore because that was a big thing. Obviously, our record there and stuff, and then we'll look at the injuries. Like it was always said when we were going, well, we'll see how you do. Van Dijk gets injured. Van Dijk gets injured along with our two other best centre halves, and it's just been. I went from thinking, all right, remember with City battered us, all right, that's us definitely at the title race. Let's just make top four. Let's see what we can do in the Champions League. And then I still thought we'd make top four. And then even with these injuries and stuff, there's no excuse for that run at Anfield, the 6 home losses in a row, the performances, like even the one there on Saturday against Newcastle, that we should, with the team we had out there, we still should be beating them. I thought it was cowardly. They had a perfectly good goal disallowed. Let's not forget with Callum Wilson. That was absolute bullshit that wasn't given. Next thing we can't hold out for another minute. So that's another thing. We've looked good for 60, 70 minutes in games, and then last 20 minutes we just switch off. It seems mentally, physically. So I think it's a mixture of them three things. One thing with me and Peter, like we're big Liverpool fans, but we're not going to be one of them, them fans that'll just make up excuses. Like we could just keep on going on about the injuries. They do play a part. Let's be honest, they do, especially with Van Dijk, best centre back in the world in my eyes. But who we have, we still should be making top four, and it's not looking like we're going to do that. I've written that off personally about a month ago. I know we've had some good results there, but just these results, like the Leeds result, the Newcastle result, the back of my mind, I know this season they can pop up. We can't see it out. So there's a summary of the season. I just want it to end, to be honest, lads.
Yeah, no, I can totally see where you're coming from there, mate. You mentioned, obviously, some of the more recent results, Saturday in general as well. Quite a bit of a shocking one, really. Like I wasn't expecting it. It was Joe Willock at the end, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, he's having a fantastic time on loan from Arsenal over at Newcastle. But and you also mentioned Virgil van Dijk and how important it can be to have a defender of his caliber at the club. And obviously, we look at what Man City did this season, bringing Ruben Diaz, and how instrumental he has been to City, where the defense wasn't quite up to par. They brought him in. It seemed to be a massive, missing piece of the puzzle. But Reece as well, you're a Liverpool fan as well, obviously, as the listeners know. But not having Van Dijk this season, I mean, how can you really sum that up? How important is that man for Liverpool's success?
Oh, he's crucial. You know, he's always going to be the first name on the team sheet, isn't he? He was last season, and without his injuries, before he got injured, he was going to always be the first name on the team sheet. And then you look at him getting injured, and it just shows like the how much we were relying on his back to carry us in that defensive line. Like as soon as he got injured, the little pockets of sort of minor little sort of insecurities that we had as a team. Trent's not the best defensively, especially when he doesn't have Van Dijk to cover him. Obviously, he's fantastic on the ball, one of the best passers in the league, but try him defensively against some of the other defenders in the league, he might struggle a bit. Robertson's been trying his utmost hardest, and then it's that centre back duo. Every centre back that Van Dijk plays with, he makes them look better. And we haven't had that. Obviously we brought in Kabak, who's been, he's filled his role massively. But for me, like Van Dijk was kind of, as soon as he was out, we were kind of like, how are we gonna cover now?
Yeah. Well, I mean, one of the big pieces of news fairly recently, in terms of Liverpool and centre backs, is that a deal for, I think it's Ibrahima Konate coming out of RB Leipzig is potentially on the cards. Dermot, do you think that that's someone who could come in and provide a lot of the ways to fix Liverpool? Can he come in and be something that could take you forward next season to being a lot more progressive?
Yeah, I'm not going to lie, Joe. I haven't seen a lot of them, to be honest. I've seen a couple of times in the Champions League. I used to watch a bit of Bundesliga, so did Peter, but even just the way you see Nagelsmann gone to Bayern there, I don't really respect that league, because I look at it as 19 clubs feeding Bayern Munich. So I don't really watch the Champions League that much, or the Bundesliga that much anymore. But from what I've seen of him, he looks decent, raw. He looks raw, obviously, physically class, quick, got a turn of pace and stuff. I think he's 21, but there was always talk of Upamecano was the main man. From what I've seen of him, he doesn't look great. Obviously, he's on his way to Bayern Munich next season, but I haven't seen lots of him. But one thing that will concern me, especially with us, his injury record isn't great for someone so young. So I think Romano's basically saying we're working on that deal. So it probably is going to happen. It kind of, the timing stinks as well. I'd say FSG were going to announce that a few weeks after, but just the fans are against them, so they've kind of just made that a bit early. But it could be with Kabak. I don't know how. I can't judge Kabak. He's had Phillips, Reece Williams, Henderson, Fabinho beside him. Like, if he was playing alongside Van Dijk, we'd all be saying looks quite a good player. So it's hard to judge if he's good or not just because of the circumstances. But on Konate, haven't seen a lot of him. From what I have seen, he looks decent, could be a good player. He's well thought of by people who watch him, but just that injury record kind of worries me a bit. But yeah, I think that deal probably will go through, judging by Twitter and stuff like that.
Yeah, you mentioned the timing of the announcement, potentially FSG may be holding back on that. So it's only right, it's been mentioned, let's get out of the way. The short-lived Super League, we won't talk too much about it. I mean, it's gone, we can forget it. But one thing that, I mean, me as a United fan and the Liverpool boys can have in common is that It was our clubs who were at the top, who were pushing for this league, realistically. And as fans of the sport, fans of the game, it can be a bit of a hard thing to take that, but it's something that I think the fans have accepted, and they've certainly had their voices heard with protests and everything. What was your overall opinion, Dermot, of the short-lived Super League and stuff? I'm guessing, like us, probably against it.
Yeah, it stunk. But one thing I would say on it, I don't think that's dead in the water, lads. There'll be room. This will come out again in like a year or so, but they'll just change it up slightly. There'll be like maybe a relegation or that's not over. Let's be honest. Them billionaires were talking about that for months and months, probably a couple of years. They're like, as we speak, they're in a Zoom meeting together talking about how they can restructure it and get their money. But nah, it did stink, just because I know we're like Man United, Liverpool, obviously massive clubs, but like what struck it for me, how do Spurs even have the cheek? I know I'm going a bit off topic there. The cheek of Spurs to even think they're in that. Like, they're not. They're just, I could name 10 different clubs that are bigger than them, because supposedly it was done on heritage. it's not like they've even won trophies recently. Like, I wouldn't consider City, they are becoming a bigger club just because of their trophy haul and stuff. But Spurs haven't even done that. They have a nice stadium. That summed it up for me. The way it was done, they're trying to do it on a heritage thing, but they had Spurs in it and stuff. It stunk, man. It was the fact even the apology from John Henry there, just like he couldn't take it seriously. I don't even think the Glazers, I'll ask you United, like they did a written apology, but it wasn't even. I don't even think they put their name to it, sort of thing. They said they were trying to save football. Powers of sense say that, trying to just make more money. Let's be honest, they're billionaires for a reason. They're ruthless, they're greedy, and they're just looking for a bit more dough. Nah, it stunk, but I'm not gonna lie, that's not the end of that, lads.
Yeah, no, I think it's kind of hard to disagree with that, Reece. We had obviously Patrick from Views TV official, a massive Spurs fan last week, and it found it interesting they're talking about Spurs being as part of that. And I mean, I can't help but agree, but he had very similar views. Reece, in case the fans and those listening to this didn't already know, your opinions of the short-lived Super League, mate.
It'd be hard to find something that I don't agree with Dermot on, to be honest. Like, it was a complete shambles, a complete takeaway of the fans. Basically, they forgot about the fans and just cared about the money. To kind of shortly summarize it, you look at a team like Arsenal and Spurs, they were like, oh, we haven't won anything in a while. Let's earn some more money by playing Bayern Munich every week and getting smashed like 8-4, There's no point in it. So, yeah, it's a money-grabbing move, and we move on to the next absolute shambles of a plan.
We do indeed. And like Dermot said, that could be something which we do see in the near future. So we'll have to keep our eyes peeled. But if we go back to talking about Liverpool, Reece, you've been doing a bit of a dive into some of the stats.
Yeah. So this season's stats, well, in terms of, obviously, if you compare where, winning the league last season, if you look at this season, it could arguably be shown as one of the worst total defenses in the Premier League history. Obviously, you could dive back further and further and see potentially other teams that have gone worse. But, obviously we ended the 2019-20 season with 32 wins, 3 losses and 3 draws. And that's an incredible record, finishing on that many wins, only losing 3. And that was pretty much, on the cusp of the pandemic, and then, following that as well. So for a long period of time, it was like 18 games, without even a draw. That first draw came to Manchester United, and they're not exactly to sniff at. So
take the small wins where we can get them, mate.
That's the only dubs that United can get at the moment.
Yeah.
But then you look at this season, 15 wins after 33 games. That's half of the wins of last season, and there's 5 games to go. The 9 losses, 9 draws is not good at all. Like we say, we could put it down to the injuries. We could put it down to Van Dijk and Henderson, and obviously Van Dijk's the big one, but then there's the little injuries. Trent being out for a little while, Jota being out for a little while after he picked up some form. Keita, the rotations off the bench for the midfield pairings, and also Joe Gomez and Joel Matip, who probably together probably could have done a good enough job. I mean, Dermot, do you think that they probably could have together?
Definitely, for sure, man. And as well, Alisson has missed. I'd say he's missed nearly over 5 games easy, like probably a bit more. He's missed just these little nigglies 2-3 weeks at a time, sort of thing. Obviously, he lost his father as well, which was sad to see and stuff. But Matip and Gomez, I think if we kept the majority of our team fit enough, if you had them at the back, I'd be confident enough. Fabinho, Shield, but the thing is with Matip, we just need to sell him now, because he just can't stay fit. When he plays, he's pretty good. He's 7-8 out of 10. He's good on the ball, good header. He's a good player. Great transfer on a free, but his injury record and fitness record is just shocking. Gomez, personally, I think Peter says it as well. He's a good player, but he's been made to look better by Van Dijk, in my opinion. Obviously, there is the English hype as well. That happens as well. I hear Martin Keown is massive fan of him. Says he's going to be the next big thing. I don't know about that now. Gomez is a good, solid player, but I'd be concerned about his injury record as well. Like, I know the injury he got now, like that's keeping him out now, was kind of, it was an impact one. It could kind of happen to anyone, but in general, he picks up a good few injuries. I would have been confident with them two at the back, yeah, with a team around them. Fabinho out of the midfield has been massive for us as well. Even you see, yesterday we had to throw, or Saturday, sorry, we had to throw him back into centre back because Nat Phillips is out. The difference it makes, I think, if we had Fabinho, we should have beaten Newcastle anyways with them chances, let's be honest. But if he was in there screening the lads, I would have been very, very confident we would have won that easy enough. So Fabinho out of the midfield is the pundits are. Some of the pundits, man, like Sky, BT and stuff, it kind of goes to some of the crap. They just speak, not just Liverpool, just in general, though. They just speak such crap. They don't highlight these things. Like, they never really talk about, they ask why of Liverpool. Like, they don't look at this thing. Fabinho out the midfield, I think, has been one of the big reasons why we've struggled so much. I think he goes under the radar, how good he is at his job. But maybe that's just me. But even speaking to a few other Liverpool fans, that's kind of what they think as well.
Yeah, for me, I think Fabinho is probably one of our players of the season. That, obviously he's not a goal scorer, so he doesn't get all the headlines that a Mo Salah would. Obviously, he scored 20 goals this season, so but Fabinho has been like the defensive rock, either in the midfield or going back into that centre back role. Which, I mean, he played in with Monaco as well, didn't he? So I think looking at that as well, but like. So going on to then Salah as well, 20 goals this season. He was out for a little bit during his time with self-isolation and stuff like that. But then again, like when he's been out, no one else has picked up the reins or started fighting. Mane has looked a shell of himself. You look at last season, Sadio Mane ended the competition with 18 goals. This season he's currently on 10 less. He's on 8. Firmino as well. He looks completely wasted compared to last season. Even last season. He showed glimpses of creativity and distributing the ball to his wide men, and this year he's only got one wide man to actually pass the ball out to. So, I mean, what do you think is going wrong with the attack that we're not able to score as many goals?
Yeah, I think it's just, I think Mane, it's kind of the start of the Mane decline. One of my favorite players for Liverpool, but he's always been reliant on his pace and power. He still probably has a lot of that. He has still lots of that. But even when Mane, like say last season, I think he said he scored 18 goals, he still probably missed loads of big chances. Like he misses a lot of chances even when he's on good form. He just does. Even Salah, probably he is a bit more clinical, gets in there more. But Salah misses even there. Sure, we've seen Saturday, prime example. Like, they are sitters. They're as good as sitters. They miss. Mane's kind of always done that. On Firmino, I think he's probably, I have a poster from there just behind me. He is my favorite Liverpool player. I think I don't look at him as a goal scorer. He's our creator. Like, he's a number. He's not he plays a bit higher than a number 10, but like he's a false 9. He's like a 9.5. I just made that up there, but that sort of way. I see him as our creator. Even some of the tricks, the flicks he does and stuff, just kind of link the play. But yeah, he has dropped off as well, along with the other. To be fair to Salah, he's just kind of kept up his standards. He doesn't might not put in a good performance, but he'll get the goals. He's reliable for that. He's going for another golden boot. He might not get it with Kane, but I think Jota as well has been to be fair to Jota, he's looked cold enough. He's looked good, as in good, like in front of goals when he gets there. He just gets in the right positions. But I just think with that, Van Dijk, and going back to him again, but one of our biggest assets going forward is that Van Dijk diagonal to Salah. Realistically, even Henderson can kind of used to do that when he was playing. He's missed a good bit of the season, so I think it all goes back to the midfield and backline. Why some of the front three aren't firing as such, but they've all just been off form. Probably Salah hasn't been because of his goals, but yeah, they've just dropped off. They look mentally like they just look fatigued, to be honest, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, also, we've kind of seen the rumours. Salah hasn't maybe been happy at times. Mane, but I mean, staying on Salah for a minute, Joe, as the outsider, we may or may not have been seeing Mo Salah flirting with the prospect of leaving. I mean, what do you think his future lies in the Premier League?
See, it's really interesting because around the time of last summer, we were discussing a lot of we had a lot of journalists on in the summer, and we were discussing a lot of the top transfer rumors. And I think David Lynch was pretty confident that the Salah was staying put, and I don't think realistically at the start of last season there was any reason why he would go. I mean, he's at Liverpool, he's Champions League medal around his neck, he's a league winner as well at that, and the team is good. The team is good. The team works, and the manager knows the team. But this season, it's been slightly different. And I think even though he has done an awful lot for Liverpool as a football club, you can never fully write out the temptation. I think the temptation is always going to be there. And I think Real Madrid are a huge club. Barcelona are a club in turmoil, but they're still big. They've still got money. And I think these clubs are always going to be the desire to get in these top players in. And I tell you what, you look at Salah's record now, you cannot deny him anything. The man is crazy good. And he has been crazy good for the past 4 or 5 years. He has been honestly, he has been so solid, and he's been one of Liverpool's best ever signings. There's no doubt about that. Whether I think he'll maybe leave this summer, I would probably say no. But the temptation will be there. I think if a deal came in, and it was good enough to tempt him away, I would never write it out. But I feel like this season, in terms of the big Galactico players, you're going to be looking a lot of heads at Mbappe, Haaland, Jadon Sancho is going to be another huge name. But we'll have to wait and see. We'll have to wait and see how it goes. But I totally, agree that the temptation's there for Salah. And, like you mentioned Salah as well, this season individually, 32 appearances, 20 goals in the Premier League. And like Dermot says, he could well be chasing another golden boot, but you have got the likes of Harry Kane to compete with. I mean, at the moment, in terms of Kane, it's an interesting point I've just kind of thought of. Kane's another person who has a lot of doubt thrown around him, and this League Cup loss now is how much is too much at this rate? I mean, Dermot, would you take Kane at Liverpool? 2, do you think he's prone to leave this season more than any?
I'd take Kane in a heartbeat, lads. And if you're on about a Firmino replacement, because he can do that as well. He doesn't even need to score. Like he'll score the goals, but he can create as well. Like, yeah, Kane's sick. I think actually Kane is a bit disrespected just because he plays for Spurs, that sort of thing. But the thing with Kane, he signed that long-term contract, didn't he? He still has a few years left. But if I was Harry Kane, what's he, 27, 28 now? I would be faking injuries. I would be just not training. He needs to do that to get out. Like, Spurs are falling ship. I don't even mean that as a thing to Spurs. He just needs to do that. He's not going to win anything there. Kane needs to be winning. Not going to lie. If Kane stayed at Tottenham and broke Shearer's record, I still wouldn't respect him as much as I would if he, like, at least Shearer got a Premier League title in. I personally couldn't see him going to an English club just because Levy wouldn't sell. You know what he's like. I think he said he's never going to sell to an English club. He done that with Bale, done it with Modric. But I don't know who's going to buy him, though. That's the thing. He kind of needs to just, like, taint his legacy. I know he's Spurs through and through. He was an Arsenal fan as a young lad as well, I think. But Kane is class, and he just needs to leave to be competing for champion. Like, people say Kane doesn't do it on the big games, but, like, look who's around him. Like, say even that game Sunday, what if Kane was with Man City? Do you think he'd do it then? If he got some of them chances Sterling got, like, he'd bury them. So, me personally, could he go to PSG Pochettino reunion? But they're one of the only clubs that could afford him, I think, if Mbappe maybe goes to Madrid. But I don't know, Madrid are in a lot of debt as well. I hope Kane doesn't go to any other English club, like, because Liverpool aren't going to get him. I'm realistic in that. But because if he goes to Man United, if he goes to City, just give him the league title for as long as he's there. Let's be honest. You can nearly give it to him anyways. But if he goes to United, I'd be good because he'd elevate you as well. He'd make his contenders, I think, because he could play that creator as well, which is what you probably need as well. But he'd still score 25 plus goals. So, yeah, if I was Kane, I would just be onto my agent constantly. Let's get me this move now, because he needs to go. If he doesn't go now, he'll never go, I don't think.
Yeah, it will be one of the sagas to watch in the summer, definitely. You never know. Again, it's hard to predict because he is, like you said, Tottenham through and through, but it's one that we're going to have a little look at. But in terms of around the doubt mill, we spoke about Klopp. He had an outside one with Kane, Salah rather, an outside one with Kane. But I was going to talk about Jurgen Klopp now, because I think as well there's been a few, again, not really too much in them, but a couple of rumours as well that potentially Klopp maybe potentially moving along. I think a lot of it came with the Super League kind of talk, and obviously he gave his opinions on it, and fair play to him. He spoke about it from the heart, just like James Milner and a lot of other, Jordan Henderson, well, a lot of other Premier League players. But there was doubt thrown in around his name, and I think a lot of people were linking him to the German job or Bayern Munich, and obviously now you've got Flick going to Germany, and you've got Nagelsmann now going to Bayern, which again, like you said earlier, that's pretty much Bayern, no competition for the next few years. They've got the top guy, but Jurgen Klopp going, I think one, where potentially could he go, and two, is it a possibility? I mean, Reece, I'll come to you to start. Obviously, Klopp's done an awful lot from the club, and I don't think anyone will want to see him go. But do you think there is any potential risk of Klopp going anytime soon?
There's always the risk of a manager leaving. It's never ironed on whether a manager's always going to stay, depending on whether the ownership want him to stay or whether he wants to stay himself. I think if it was down to Jurgen Klopp and everything, like Liverpool in ways is kind of like a Borussia Dortmund. It's it was the working man's club, and it always has been, until all this money was pumped in. So, Liverpool as a football club, it has the philosophies of Jurgen Klopp in a way, and that's why he works such as as a Liverpool manager. And I don't think there are many managers out there that do fit Liverpool. Liverpool are a special club, and when you find a manager like Jurgen Klopp that does fit the system, it's a perfect match, and you never want that to end. So I think if it was up to Jurgen Klopp, I don't think he would. Obviously, the German job, I'm guessing every German manager wants to, manage his national team to a World Cup. That's the ultimate goal as a player or a manager, winning that World Cup. But I mean, it's got to a point now where he's done a lot with us, but I think he can do way more as a manager. Rebuilding from what he's done this season. Obviously the injuries don't help. The rotations. It's just going through COVID, going past COVID as well. I think that there's still plenty more for him to do.
Yeah, no, definitely. We'll go to you, Dermot. What do you think about the Klopp situation?
Yeah, I don't see him going anywhere for the time being. Like as you said, Bayern but the Bayern job and the Germany job were the ones he'd be linked to. They're obviously taken up now. Like where else could he go? I couldn't see him going Juventus. Couldn't see him going PSG with Poch there and stuff. I couldn't really see it happening. But I would see Klopp. I think Klopp, like I have arguments with Peter as like he is FSG out, but he says I always say to him, I think Klopp has masked how like bad FSG have been. Klopp has made them look good, it's sort of way. Obviously they brought him in, so fair play to them for that, but that I rate him so highly because he's done it in spite of a lot of things. He does have money to spend. He has had money to spend. I'm not saying he hasn't but if you compare him to like say what Pep got, let's just even compare it this year. We're struggling for a centre back. We can't get anyone. January bank. Who do we buy? Ben Davies from Preston. He hasn't even played for us yet, Reece. I forgot about him, to be honest. Pep's struggling at the start to get battered 5-2 by Leicester. They need a centre back. 65 million on Ruben Diaz. It just kind of goes to show the difference of how he's back and how Pep's back. Still right, Pep. Don't get me wrong. He's a class manager, but I still think Klopp probably has in his mind there's maybe if he can get a couple of players this summer, I think he might. Let's see, but if he gets a couple of players this summer and gets a team together, he might think, all right, there's one more. Because it's an agent. It's not a very old team, but a lot of players are just coming into their prime or they're in their prime. He probably thinks there's one more Premier League, one more Champions League in this team, one more major trophy in this team, and that's probably what he's thinking, and he'd move on after that, and he'd be an absolute icon. He already is an icon of Liverpool for breaking that drought and winning that Champions League and the other stuff. But if he could win us one more, fair play to him, because you see with Chelsea and Tuchel, the money they're going to spend, the money they have spent, kind of what he's up against. He doesn't get his backing as some of the other top clubs as well. But I just don't know why. I have a feeling where this isn't don't quote me in this round, but I have a feeling we'll be in for Sancho this year. I don't know why. I think Mbappe is just impossible. I don't even look at any of them rumours. I think Haaland's impossible as well, just because Raiola and what they demand in terms of wages and stuff. I have a feeling we probably won't get Champions League this season, but I don't know. I have a feeling Sancho could, the lure of Klopp and Liverpool, and I think maybe Dortmund, I don't think Dortmund would sell Haaland this season, but I think they'll sell either one of Sancho. I think we'll be in for Sancho. I don't think we'll get him, but maybe as like a Mane replacement or something. I'd take him in a heartbeat, lads. But something like that as well. I'm a big fan of Pedro now. If Klopp could get under someone like Pedro now, I think Klopp could make him world class, because I think that lad's going right to the top. But if he gets a few players this season, he'll be happy enough. But hopefully he gets a decent back, like a centre back, another forward, a striker. We need it, but we know with FSG they can't really be trusted to properly back the manager for what they want. But I think he'll stay for a couple of more seasons anyways.
Yeah, but Neto and Sancho, two names mentioned there, obviously. Neto, I totally agree with you. I'm a massive fan of his. And, you know, obviously you took Jota last season. It might be tough to get Neto out this year. But,
yeah,
you know, I mean, the Jota deal was fantastic. I mean, the injuries were there, but it was a good deal. But I think as well, like you said, you'd be silly not to go for Sancho. I think a lot of top clubs should be looking at him. But one kind of final point that I want to kind of end on, I'll start with you, Reece, just to get your overall opinions. Liverpool this season, been off the mark. We know it hasn't been exactly what the fans have been looking for. Next season, do you think with a bit of rest, a bit of recovery, obviously we've got the Euros to be played as well, but if we have the players getting a bit of rest and if we have Klopp kind of looking and getting in some fresh talent over the summer, could next season be another title charge?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, you look at what the promise for this season. The last season, we arguably did more with less. You know, we didn't have a caliber player like Thiago demanding the midfield as well. I mean, we've got to try and see Wijnaldum out as well. It's pretty nailed on, isn't it, that he's going to Barcelona? I mean, with his past performances, maybe won't be missed that much. I mean, Thiago is a fantastic player in order to cover him. Henderson will be back. Hopefully, Fabinho commanding the central defensive midfield role. Van Dijk obviously covering him alongside Ibrahima Konate, who, you know, at 6'4" and as fast as he is, he's going to be one of the most dominant defenders in the league. I hope, as Dermot pointed out, his injury record speaks for itself. But as long as we've got the rotation there, make Kabak's deal permanent. You know, that would be the most ideal situation as well. Obviously you want those rotational players. You want, hopefully Diogo Jota's back. Maybe Firmino could be out the door. Or, one of these players that are starting to decline, the Mane or Firmino. Try and get the replacement. But also keep trying to develop a guy like Nat Phillips as well, who for Liverpool this season has won the most aerials of all of the players. He's really stepped up this season, and so if he keeps developing as a player and keeps up, he could be one of the rotationary centre backs. And I think as long as we just keep having those rotations, because at the centre back position we don't have any depth. At the right back position we barely have any depth. The left back position has been something we've been crying out for ages. Behind Robertson, what happens if Robertson gets injured? And it was only until this season where we brought Samiskas in and strengthen that depth. So I think if we have the depth, I think if we keep up, if we keep scoring, we need another goal scorer. Obviously Salah's great, but we need someone else to be providing the goals and scoring the goals. We've gone from last season having 2.24 goals per game to this season only having 1.67 goals per game. So I think that's going to be something that needs to be stepped up. More goal scoring and a little bit more depth. Make that Kabak deal permanent and bring in Ibrahima Konate.
Brilliant. And Dermot, what do you feel about the potential Liverpool title charge next season? Do you think it's on, mate?
Outside chance, yes. To be honest, I'd have to see who we sign and who Chelsea and City kind of get and see, what I mean? There could be, it's hard to know, there could be another major injury. Let's just say Diaz gets injured at the Euros for City. It's a totally different ball game. But me being realistic, I think third place, I think Chelsea are going to be proper challengers next season. I think they'll get a top class number 9. Wouldn't put it past them getting Haaland. They have the money. Let's be honest. Abramovich will spend that. City, to be honest, nowadays I just look at every year going into every season. I'm shocked if City don't win the league. I just have that sort of attitude with City. They can just rotate 5 or 6 different players, literally 5-6 different players every game. They still literally look the exact same. It doesn't matter who they really play, better maybe their keeper, the lads at the back. But if we get, like I said, I'm just dreaming here about the Sancho. That's just an inkling I have. Probably won't. But if we got someone like Sancho, Konate got over the line, we kept Kabak, we got a a number 9, I'm asking for a lot there, because I don't think FSG will do that. I think, yeah, we can be challengers if we don't have the injuries we have next season. Like when Van Dijk comes back, we have to remember he's only going to be 78% or what he ever was, but we'll take that. That's miles better than what they have. But I think fans, we kind of need to think, but like, people think when Van Dijk comes back, oh, everything's grand. It's not going to be like that. He's never probably going to get to that level again. He's just because he's been out for so long. But I think, yeah, we can mount the challenge because we've the experience. We've won the big trophies. But if I'm being honest right now, next season I think we'd finish 3rd or 4th. But like we'd be much closer to the title sort of thing, maybe.
Yeah, well, there we go, guys. We'd love to know what you all think. As always, you can get in touch with us at Twitter at Pundits Average and on Instagram and Facebook at The Average Pundits. And if you listen to this on your favourite streaming service, please give us a little follow. And if you listen to this on YouTube, please give us a like and an all-important subscribe. It really does help us an awful lot. And thank you, Dermot, for coming on today. And where can the listeners find you on social media and on YouTube?
Yeah, YouTube, just the Near Post Podcast. If you type that in, we just chat all things ball. Like, we're Liverpool fans, but to be honest, we prefer to chat about other teams. You know what I mean? We look into Euro, Serie A, Ligue 1, stuff like that as well. So all things that. And yeah, I think we're just at the Near Post Podcast on Twitter. I'm not actually sure. Same on that on Instagram as well. You should find us. You'll see our logo. So yeah, absolute gents for having us on, lads. Really enjoyed that one.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And Reece, thank you again, as always, for joining me as well. Been a good episode today.
Yeah, indeed. You know, it's always great to have someone on, and you know, a diehard Liverpool fan like Dermot. You know, you can't ask for more insight. Guy that watches every single game. Yeah, it will be fun to see how it all plays out in the coming season. I mean, I'm looking forward to it. I'm in the exact same boat. I just want it to end the suffering.
There we go, guys.
Get the Euros
coming out.
There we go, guys. Thank you very much as always, and we will see you next time.
For the latest football content, subscribe to The Average Pundits on YouTube. Follow us on your favorite streaming service and follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook.